Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Tuesday Cruiser Chat with Otram. Sorry we weren't on last week. I came home, set up the computer, logged in like normal to start up chat, and the software setup had completely changed. So I had to download software, couldn't get it all to work right, and yeah, couldn't get software happy, so I spent a couple hours over the weekend getting the right software, getting everything set up that we'd need to go to get this working right. So hopefully everything's coming through all fancy on your end. It looks like it's working on my end quite right, but it looks like it is now. So we're good to go. Trying to think of shop news. We started accepting applications for a entry level shop guy to add more work to the shop. So we're accepting applications, interviewing folks for that. Started on version 2 of our 80 series stainless exhaust with the hopes of making it faster to produce so that I can actually make them when people want them instead of telling people there's a huge delay on them. And yeah, the software that I had to switch to make chat work has all these like bells and whistles and is basically like a TV studio. So I thought it would be fun to do green screen behind me instead of just my office. So I'm playing with the software, seeing what I can do with it, and hopefully it works better. And I switched from using a webcam to the actual camera that we use for shooting the videos at the shop. So hopefully video quality is a little bit better, audio quality should be better, and you don't have to look at my office anymore. We can flip pictures and stuff through. Although all I have loaded right now is the Otram logo. But yeah, any questions, whatever you guys want to chat about tonight. As usual, I don't have anything planned. I just figured I'd show up and answer questions. So it was funny, the guy that's business coaching me, we do like a conference video chat every week. And I said something to him about getting green screen for doing chat. And he was like, oh, I'm on green screen now. And like flipped his background to like a tropical beach scene. I would try switching it, but I'm worried that if I try switching it out while we're doing chat that I'm going to screw something up and lose chat. So we're not gonna play with that at the moment. And to Gary, I don't know a ton about cruise control. We don't ever get really asked to go into diagnostics or anything on them, and cruise control isn't something that I use when I'm driving, so I've never really messed with them. So I don't know that I'm gonna have much info for you. And yeah, to John, the brake booster job, it's pretty straightforward. It can take some jockeying and some jostling to try to get it wiggled out of there, but it's doable. And to Worley, yeah, the machine shop, well, I guess they don't usually tell me the condition unless there's something wrong. You know, I tell him to do our normal, and he goes over the head, and, you know, if everything's good and all he has to do is skim it, he just skims it, I get it back with the amount he skimmed stamped on it, and we're good to go. If there's an issue, he calls me before he does anything, but that's really rare. And yeah, I never use cruise. So I've never had anything with enough of an engine to make cruise control feasible. I've always had Forerunners or like my little Subaru, nothing with enough gusto to handle using cruise control. So I just never got into using it. And to Peppy, I would, check all the fluids. Yeah, check all the fluids. Check tie rod ends, check for anything dangling underneath, anything that might be funky looking. But yeah, just, go over it real well, make sure nothing looks super out of place. But otherwise, just drive it and see what it does. And hey, Alex, how's it going? And to Jason, my video's not sticking. It stuttered for a minute, but then caught up, so I don't know. Tips and advice on dropping the T-case on an 80. Either use a small trans jack, or have a second pair of hands. It likes to spin when you take the last bolt out, and it can be a real pain. Well, not a pain, but it'll swing down and cause pain because it'll like whack you in the chest if you're doing it on the ground. So a second set of hands is helpful. Comparison of 80 to 100 series as far as maintenance and repair cost. I guess it depends on your climate. Here, the 100 series are a lot rustier than the 80s. The 80s generally going to be, a bit older, so you're going to, have more, catch-up maintenance to do. Although some of the 100s are getting up there in age. They're, pretty comparable. As far as maintenance and repair costs, I don't see a whole lot of difference in them. Once they're baselined, both's about the same. And to Worley, your cylinder head needs to be line bored, or your block. Because I may have misread your question up there. Because there's nothing on the head that needs to be can be line bored. Because there's no bearings that go in there. So if they bored it, the cams wouldn't fit right anymore. Oh yeah, the brake pump thing, that can be a super, super expensive repair. So yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. And to Edward, tire pressure sensor changing theoretically is easy, although you've got to take the tire off to do it. So we always just have the tire shop do them, and they do the sensor, they do all the programming and all that jazz. Yeah, we don't ever do the tire pressure sensors in-house. But, it's theoretically an easy thing to do. Yeah, if cylinder head camshaft journals are out, that would mean new head, because you can't bore them because there's no bearing that goes in them. The cam rides directly in the journals. So yeah, if they're saying that's out of line or out of whack, you need a new head. I hate to say it, but I don't think there's any fixing there. And to Alex, I think the first year for Vvt-I is 2005, but I'm not positive. But it's pretty easy to tell. The Vvt-I ones have the actuators, like you can see the actuator right behind the cam covers. Yeah, the belt procedure is basically the same. You just won't change the cam seals while you're in there if you've got Vvt-I. And as far as Jake's question with the 1HDT, we never got the diesels here. So, I'll maybe see one a year come through the shop, and we don't really do much in the way of work, like mechanical work on the diesels besides maintenance. So I know absolutely nothing about like tuning and diagnostics on them. And thanks, Vicken. I thought it was somewhere around 2005, but I wasn't exactly sure. To locate a good head, car-part.com would be it's a junkyard search engine. Otherwise, I Hate Mud, for somebody parting a motor out. And adjusting with the strip screws on the cover, I just use whatever nuts are laying around the shop to weld onto the head. Usually it ends up being like an 8mm nut, because that gives you about the right diameter on the inside to weld to the head. You can use a 10mm, but it gets really close to the diameter of the screw head, and you've got to be aimed just right, or you can arc over to the cover. And awesome, John. Thanks for the weekly subscription fee. Always dig it when people hit the money button. But yeah, I think you usually use an 8mm bolt, which would be a 12mm head. Or like a 5/16 bolt if you're using American. Or nut, rather. But yeah, you just kind of center the nut over the stripped out screw, and then you weld the center of the nut to the screw, and then you use the flats on the nut to take it out. And it takes some getting used to, because you've got to get it hot enough to burn into the stripped screw, but not so hot that you distort the nut enough that you can't get a socket back on it. But yeah, I had to do one last week. Crash didn't strip it, but he broke the Phillips off in it, and then couldn't get the rest of the Phillips tip out, so I just ended up welding it. Easy way to fish the spark plug boot out. I've got a set of like long hook picks. They're kind of like coat hanger diameter, about that long, with like a 1/4-inch hook on the end. And you can kind of fish that down between the spark plug porcelain and the boot that's on there, and kind of work it around to free the boot up, and then kind of spin it to the hook goes under the boot and pull up. It's tedious, but that's probably your best shot at getting them done. And we don't loosen body mount bolts when pulling the trans on an 80 series. When you drop the T-case, if you lower the rear down a little bit, it'll give you more access. Lately, we've been doing it lazily, and we just pull the entire drivetrain out and split the trans and engine on the floor, which is much, much easier, but also takes a gantry crane or a big cherry picker. But yeah, if you lower the back of the T case down, you can kind of get a little bit of access with a lot of extensions and going up over the trans. It's not fun to get to though. And yeah, we've done the 100 series pads on 80 series. It seems to help. It's weird. Like, some of them go right in. Some of them we've had that have been, like, really tight. Like, you had to tap the pads in, even with the shims removed. So I'm not sure. Oh, I just lost my train of thought completely. Yeah, I'm not sure. It seems like a pretty straightforward swap, but sometimes they're really sticky and really tight, and I haven't figured out the rhyme or reason as to why. And Alex, AHC flush video is on my list, but it's been probably 5 or 6 years since I've had an AHC system in that was still functioning and worthwhile to flush. So I don't know how soon that video will come about. If I get one in that needs to be flushed and, the customer is paying me to flush it, then yeah, I'll shoot a video on it. I just don't know how soon that'll come about. There's not really a drain plug for the condenser or the condensate drain. It's a little pipe that comes out of the bottom of the air box and goes through the firewall and to the ground. We've seen like mud daubers and bees and spiders build nests in the part that's in the engine compartment and plug it up so it backflows. We've also seen them somehow get kicked, pulled, torn loose, so they're not hooked up anymore. And already did the brake pads on the Shady 80. I used a second-hand set of Terrain Tamer drilled and slotted rotors that we had in the scrap pile, and EBC Green Stuff 80 series pads. Although it's not currently driving yet. I'm working on exhaust for it. Actually, it's getting the prototype for the version 2 of our stainless exhaust. And as far as 100 series 4-speed versus 5-speed, I don't have a lot of thoughts on them. I don't see a huge noticeable difference between the two, but we don't really, drive them long distance or anything. We just go for test runs out at the shop. The 5-speed's harder to change the fluid on because there's no dipstick, but that's not like a deal breaker. And when did I do the AHC delete video? That was one of our very, very, very first videos, so year ago, somewhere like that. I need to go back and do an update on it now that we've got better camera stuff. But yeah, that's one of the very first videos, so about a year and a half ago. Yes, the cylinder head bolts get motor oil on the threads and between the washer and the bolt head before you put them on. Slee's not the only one making them. Metal Tech has them. I think Iron Pig used to have them. I'm not sure if they still do. Like, Crown Performance has them, and I think Crown Performance is making a lot of the other people's brake lines. I just got some from Metal Tech for the Shady 80. And I don't know if the version 2 exhaust will be more affordable. It depends. I'm actually going to take this prototype to a local mandrel bending shop to see if they can mass produce them for me, which possibly will lower the price some. but I wouldn't expect it to come down much just because it's such a niche thing with such a small market. That I'm not going to be able to produce them on a large enough scale. Large enough scale to get a huge price reduction. Like right now, with me hand building them at $1,800, I'm not even paying myself half of what our normal shop labor rate is, which is why I'm looking at getting them produced. And cool, yeah, Tom, I meant to email you to see if you were still coming out this week with the trans and T case. And I might do a video on the H55F. I actually just finished this afternoon shooting the video for the 4-speed and T case rebuilds. Now I just need to edit them. But yeah, I may do a 5-speed rebuild since I'll have it in the shop. So, John, it's funny you mention that. You actually can make payments on the exhaust. The credit card processing company that we use does installment plans. I've never actually used it, but we are set up to take them. But yeah, I always forget to promote that we can do that. But we are set up to do it, and there's like an approval process and all that jazz that I've never messed with. But it is a possibility. And a Maxwell, yeah, we see a lot of windshield leaks that cause wet floors. Especially like the bottom corners will leak. It could also be sunroof drains. It could be your AC drain line popped off, but if you don't use AC much, then that's probably not it. But yeah, it could be a couple of things. And to Vicken, I've only done one 1-inch body lift on an 80. It wasn't horrible to do. You know, your bumpers are going to have a little bit of a gap. But it wasn't bad to do. And I'm trying to remember, I think the customer of ours that did it is running Old Man Emu J springs, which is probably like a 3.5 inch lift. And he just put 37s on, and apparently they fit. Which I may actually look into doing a 1-inch body lift on the Shady 80. And if I do, I'll do a video. Although as crusty as the Shady 80 body is, I'm not too enthused about undoing the mounts. Yeah, I'm not saying making payments on exhaust is a good idea. I'm just saying that the program is in place to do it. But yeah, the 80 series stainless exhaust, especially the way the current tailpipe runs, there's so many bends in it that it just takes me forever to fit them all up and weld them. So I'm trying to make it less bends and hopefully having it more mass produced than me just hand building every one. I want to say he used a 4-crawler body lift. Roger Brown, he's the tech guy in Toyota Trails. If I do one for the Shady 80, I will just, make one myself. We did one for Crash's 4Runner because he couldn't find a body lift for it, so we just bought, a long stick of UHMW and turned off a bunch of pucks on the lathe. Yeah, the strip between the hood and the windshield that won't cause a leak because that there's a whole panel under there that just kind of drains out into the fender wells. But the windshield gasket itself will leak, especially if the installer didn't follow the factory procedures when putting it in. We've seen probably 3 or 4 this year that were leaking in the windshield. And it's easy on our end because we've got a glass shop next door. So we just take them over there and have them reseal them. Yeah, I was never tall enough to be a glass guy, so I don't get into messing with them. The John, are you talking about the trim that sticks into the gasket, or a different trim? And to Jason, yeah, I know how you feel about the price of the exhaust. I paid $1,100 for the shop 80, and I've got that much just in front axle rebuild parts. I'm like doubling the worth of the truck, putting our stainless exhaust on it. But I need a truck that I can take my time with and get it all exactly how I want it. So that's why it's getting the stainless. And a 5-speed manual swap on the Shady 80 would be awesome. And I think it's like Blue Line Off-Road or somebody like that, I think does a 1FZ to H55F adapter. So you don't have to get the weird Japanese 5-speed and all that jazz anymore. So it's slightly more doable. But yes, I would love a 5-speed in the 80. And the one above the doors, I haven't seen that one leak on an 80. I've seen it leak through on a 60. I guess I'll have to keep an eye out for that one. I'm of the opinion of if it's not broke, don't fix it. So if you're not throwing codes, your coil packs are likely still good. The Toyota ECU seems to be, pretty good at keeping track of misfires and what's going on, and it seemed pretty on the ball. So if you're not getting codes, I would be inclined to say that the coil packs are fine. They're not cheap for good ones, so yeah, I wouldn't replace them if they're not broken and not causing you problems. And yeah, I've never wheeled an automatic truck. Everything I've ever had up until I got married was always 5-speed. So I may change my tune once I wheel the 80 with the auto. And to Maxwell, the easiest way is, get inside the truck with a flashlight while somebody just like hoses the truck down from the outside and try to look for leaks. That's going to be your best bet. And I think it's somebody like Blue Line Off-Road. It's something like that, and I can't think of the guy's name. Yeah, I can't think of his name. But it's something like Blue Line Off-Road. It's something like cop-related in the name. And I want to say... I can't think of him. The guys that redo the 40 series is FJ Company. I think they may also be doing it. And nothing's impossible. It just depends on how much money you want to throw at the problem. Oh yeah, from a 94 to 100 series, that's like a huge difference in gusto. Like 94 to 95 is a big difference. Sorry, my wife's texting me that she's on her way home. And I'm responding, so I don't get the why didn't you respond to my text. To Edward, I don't know of a good radio shop for an aftermarket radio for the 100 series with the integrated controls. We don't do a ton of stereo stuff, so I've never gone looking for it. Crutchfield is usually really good at telling you like what fits, what doesn't, adapters, and all that jazz. So I would check with Crutchfield, see what they've got, or look around on I Hate Mud and see what folks are doing. I haven't gotten into an aftermarket radio on one yet. So I love everything Joey at Wits End sells, with the exception of the land tank caster plates. I absolutely hate installing those caster plates. With those, you end up drilling a couple of, I think they're 7/8 holes, 5/8 or 7/8, I don't remember. You end up re-drilling 4 big holes, and it's right next to the knuckle and the axle house, or the pumpkin. So it's a real pain to get in there and drill them. The ones like Metal Tech and Trail Tailor sell, you end up just nipping a bit off the bottom of the radius arm bracket, and then they just tilt down and bolt in, and are much, much easier to do. So yeah, I like the Metal Tech, Trail Tailor style much, much better than doing the land tank ones. And if your headlights are changing brightness based on RPM, it could be brushes, it could be an alternator going bad, it could also be a battery getting weak, and not buffering the difference in RPM swing. A little bit of dimming, like if they dim a little bit at idle, and then they brighten back up, cruising down the road, is pretty normal. But a huge amount of dimming, could be. I'd probably look at alternator first, but I would check it with a voltmeter on the battery and see if you're actually getting a wide swing in voltage. Okay. Go out. Sorry, dogs wanted to go out. Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. the headlight relay kit that takes out the long run of voltage drop from the wiring, from going from the battery to the headlight switch back up. Getting rid of that voltage drop using one of the headlight relay kits, would certainly help. Oh, and I'll have to see. Lee just reminded me, now that we've got the better camera, he sent me these awesome, see if it'll focus, valve stem caps. I don't know if it'll show up on there, that are laser etched with the Otram logo. The old camera wouldn't pick them up, but the new camera does. These things are awesome. And they've been sitting on my desk because the Shady 80 is not in any place yet to drive. But I'm jazzed and waiting for the chance to put those on. Yeah, thank you. And I just flipped to the wrong screen and had to get back to chat. Yeah, sway bar bushings can make a huge racket. It's crazy how much noise they can make. As far as sway bar bushings versus caster plates, for the lower, like 2.5 inch lifts, we usually use the Old Man Emu caster bushings. And then for bigger lifts, we use caster plates. Because I want to say, at least last time I looked, the caster plates were a bit too much correction. Like, you would overcorrect for like the 2.5 inch lift. I could be wrong. There could be varying degrees of them out now. And if there are lower degree plates, I would definitely go plates over bushings. The factory bushings last forever, where the harder poly bushings seem to wear out more quickly. And the plates are much easier to install since you don't need a giant press and press tools and all that jazz. You know, you can leave your radius arms alone and just do the plates. I've got a set of plates for the Shady 80 to go on, but I'm probably going to end up with 3.5 or 4 inch springs. So, you know, I'll be in the right range for the bigger plates. No problem. Yeah, we had to do a set of caster bushings last week, and we've got a 50-ton shop press and electric over hydraulic, and it builds pressure quick and gets scary quick. And I was trying to, you know, push the factory bushings out, and I was starting to bow the press. They were so seized. I ended up taking an air chisel and air chiseling them out because I was scared of shooting them out of the press. Next video, assuming everything comes out right with editing, I've got 40 series 4-speed transmission and transfer case disassembly and reassembly videos all filmed, but I'm not sure. The audio was kind of screwy on them, so I'm going to try to just dub in the narration. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't done that for a full video yet. So I'm hoping it actually works, because it took me forever to film everything. Beyond that, I'm not sure what the next video will be. I need to do an update on 100 series AHC. Delete, now that we've got a better camera. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Normally I've got like a microphone that goes to an audio recorder, so it records me talking, and then I just like sync that up into the video in editing, and it works great. But the recorder I was using died, and I didn't realize it, and I have no audio for most of the videos, or most of the video clips that I shot. So I'm hoping I can salvage them, but if not, such is life. I know people do the ABS deletes. I'm not a fan of it. Toyota designed that braking system with ABS in mind. I like ABS, in inclement weather. Because as much as you always want to think that you can drive through the weather, it's nice just having ABS there to take care of things for you. So I'm of the mind to keep it, as long as it's functional. And then we've been doing a lot of EBC pads and rotors lately, and they seem to be working well. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the ABS delete. And a U-joint press tool for a press is an awesome idea. Because I hate doing U-joints. Yeah, I don't understand how they're going to line bore your cam journals, because like normally when you line bore a block, you line bore the block and then you put thicker bearings in to make up for what you bored out. With the 80 series head, there is no bearing, so whatever they bore out is just going to be a sloppy fit to the cam. I don't think that's even a possibility on the 80 head. And that's a whole lot of work to reassemble to find out it doesn't work. If you've got part-time hubs installed and you've got ABS disabled anyway, then yeah, you might as well get rid of the ABS, the rest of it. The one thing you got to watch out for doing them in a press is bending the ears. I've got one of the big C-clamp U-joint press tools, and not on a Toyota, but I was doing like a Ford U-joint, and I broke one of the ears off of the drive shaft using the press tool. So I normally just use a hammer now. Yeah, and we've done EBCs on a couple of 80s, and I dig them. I've got EBCs on my Subaru, and really like them. So that's why I put those on the Shady 80. So we'll see once I actually get the Shady 80 running how I like them on the 80. Oh, I haven't seen that Land Cruiser Heaven is selling 5-speed 80 series kits. I would be very leery of getting a kit from them. A lot of their stuff comes out of Colombia and South America. And if the used salvage parts that are coming up from down there are, in any way the same shape as the trucks we see coming up from there, they are, completely clapped out, beat to the ground. Not something you're going to be able to use without going through and rebuilding everything. So yeah, I would be leery of South American 5-speeds. I have no thoughts on a 6BT Cummins bolted to the A440. Yeah, I've never seen one done. I've never driven one, and I don't know how well that trans would hold up to the torque of a 6BT. But yeah, a 4080 is so slow. Best way to get the crankshaft pulley off of an 80 series when it's out of the truck is a 3/4 impact. Otherwise, you're gonna have to, like, we sell a crankshaft or crank pulley holding tool that uses a breaker bar. So if you've got the engine on the stand, you could brace the breaker bar to the floor and use that. But a 3/4 inch impact gun is much easier. I don't do EGR deletes. The EGR is there to do cylinder cooling at highway speed to prevent knock. It's not 1974, and you're not going to gain a massive amount of horsepower deleting it. Toyota designed the fuel control and everything with EGR in mind, so I would leave it. Oh, and to John, I went on our Store Frontier website to add hoodies, and hoodies are already on there. I thought I had done them when I did the t-shirts. So yeah, hoodies are already a thing. And I was going to mention that in last week's chat before last week's chat got canceled. And OTRAM, when I very first started out, I was mobile. Like, I went to people's houses in a van. So I was on the road again, mobile mechanic. And I was too lazy to change all the tax paperwork and all that jazz with the IRS. So I just shortened it down to the acronym so I didn't have to do all the paperwork. And I like Alex's NV4500 suggestion. And awesome. And if you don't see colors you're looking for when looking for the hoodies, let me know, because I can change up color selections. For some reason, it'll only let me do like 3 or 4 at a time. I know, buddy. It's not time yet. The dogs are click-clacking behind me. They're ready for their dinner. And they just don't understand that they've still got 10 minutes to go. Yeah, oh, and... Ah, never mind, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, I went out Sunday for a long run day, which for me, just being a beginner, long runs are not long runs. But yeah, it was actually cool and not humid Sunday morning, and I got a little over 4.5 miles. So I was really jazzed about that because I'm trying to get in shape to do a 10K at the end of October. So I'm getting there. And Alex, you can tell Dad that you got a great shot of his truck because he just commented right above you. Rob B is Dad. And the dogs would still work on green screen if they would jump up here. But the new camera I'm running is close enough that it doesn't pan down to them anymore. And yeah, thanks. I'm trying to lose weight. I think it was the 80 series suspension video. I was editing it and saw myself huffing and puffing when I was editing, and I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. And running seems to be doing the trick. And Sam's making it in just in the nick of time. And it's just so weird. I just saw my hand go in front of the camera, and the green in my wedding ring picked up the green screen. That's weird. Rear axle brake rotors are free floating. You just got to take the caliper off, and sometimes beat them off due to corrosion. But they are technically free floating. And to Joey, 80 series are going for stupid money lately. Yeah, 8K seems to be in the ballpark. You know, I paid $1,100 for mine, but it is beat. Like, I'm gonna have to go through and rebuild and fix like every system on it. But you can get them cheaper. Like, my brother called me about one, a 90, I think it was a 94. It was like $1,200 this morning that he was looking at. But yeah, 8 to 12 seems to be the going price range around here at least. Oh yeah, it is a cream puff. You didn't get to hear Crash complaining about having to wash my 80 out of all his crevices last night after removing the exhaust and running boards. I can't say that I've ever replaced a trans front seal. I can't say that I've ever seen a leaking trans front seal on an 80 series. Yeah, I've never done one and never seen one that leaked. Granted, now that I've said that, the one on the Shady 80 is going to start leaking. I've never actually rebuilt a power steering pump. I always just get new ones from Toyota. Because, like, being a shop, by the time somebody pays me to rebuild it, the labor they're going to have in it is going to be close enough to a new factory one that it makes more sense just to get a new factory one. But rebuild kit, I would go with Toyota. The aftermarket rebuild kits always seem to be hit or miss. And the Sam, I'm not sure. I've never had the wheel studs out at the same time and compared them. I would guess that the fronts are longer, but that's just a guess. Yeah, and to Dad, how about that front locker in the triple locked 80 series you sold me that does not have a locked front axle? We couldn't figure out why the front locker wouldn't work. Put it up on the lift, and the front locker doesn't engage because the entire front axle housing has been swapped to one with no locker. And yeah, to Vicken, I've never done like the torque converter, any of those. Like I've never done any seals on an 80 series trans. So I don't know. I haven't seen leaks come from that area. So we've never had reason to go in digging to do anything with them. And I'm not sure if that's a regular just drive-in seal, or if it's those Teflon bands like the American stuff uses that you've got to like shrink in to fit. I've never looked into it. And yeah, no problem, Sam. Yeah, chat's fun to do. I learned from all the guys before me on all the forums and the mailing lists and all that jazz. And I don't spend nearly enough time on the forums to, give knowledge back. So I figure chat and videos are an easy way to do that and keep the cruiser karma going. Oh, and if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here for the evening so I can get the dogs fed and ready to rock. Ready to rock before my wife gets home so we can go for a walk now that it's kind of cooling down this evening. And actually, I'll answer Sam's question really quick. I've never used Toyota's slide pin grease on the calipers. We just use the synthetic. I think ours is like CRC, and it works just fine. But yeah, I'm gonna jump off of here. I will catch you guys next week, same time, same place, as long as I don't have another software snafu. But thanks to everybody that tuned in. Thanks for everybody that subscribed. And yeah, if you really dig the videos and dig chats, check out our Patreon link. Support is always appreciated. I dump it back into camera and video gear. So yeah, I will see you guys next week. Thanks again for tuning in.